Oh, are you there? Okay, you're there. All right, what's up, everybody? No Nico today, from what I'm aware of. He said he could come in later, but right now it's just gonna be me and Chris, just recapping free agency and going over some of the future stuff in the draft as well. So I know we talked about the free agency last time. I know I missed a lot of that conversation, so I don't want to re-go over some stuff, but there may be some stuff we kind of skim back over. So since then, there has been a few moves. Specifically, I feel like I don't want to say the stupidest one, but why did they pay Jerry Jeudy $20 million a year? Let's just start with that.
Yeah.
So as most of you guys know, Jerry Jeudy was traded for, I think, a 5th round pick, maybe a 4th what do you say?
Yeah, it was 5th or 6th.
Yeah. To the Cleveland Browns. And everyone really thought, oh, this is just a conditional pick. He plays well. They pay him money this year. He plays bad. He's a free agent. So usually in that situation, you don't see them pay the guy immediately. And not only not pay him immediately, they paid him a lot. Like, Jerry Jeudy's getting more money right now than DJ Moore. And I don't see how that makes any sense. I think Jerry Jeudy let me see. Is Jerry Jeudy getting paid more than Terry?
I want to say so. If he getting 20.
He's at 19. 19.3, so I just say 20.
Yeah.
Let's see. I just want to see who's the highest. Where is he? So Jerry Jeudy is... Okay, so no, Jerry Judy's still below. So Jerry Judy's at 19.333 a year. Terry's at 22, so that's about 3 off. But I mean, everyone would rather have Terry for $3 million more, just to go over the guys that he's getting paid more than. Even after the extension, he's getting paid more than Deontay Johnson, which I do think Deontay Johnson's a better receiver. He's getting paid more than Christian Kirk, Courtland Sutton, Tyler Lockett, DeAndre Hopkins. And then, I mean, most of the guys under him, Jamar Chase is on a rookie deal, so most guys under him are probably where they should be. But above him, he's getting paid the same amount as Brandon Cooks, who, when he got the contract, was a better player. I think he still is a better player, but he didn't do shit in Dallas last year, right?
Not really.
He's getting paid a little bit less than Chris Godwin, who, when healthy, is a significantly better receiver. He's getting paid $600,000 less than Amari Cooper, who is just a better receiver. So he's right now within $3 million of these receivers. Michael Pittman Jr., Deebo Samuel, Calvin Ridley, Terry McLaurin, T. Higgins in the franchise tag, Mike Evans. Like, he's just not in this class. So it makes no sense to me why they would pay him this much. Now, there is still some wide receiver contracts to come. Some guys still have to be signed to some long-term deals, right? So you have guys like Jamar Chase and T. Higgins and so guys like that. I think Deebo's due for a no, Deebo got paid, no? I think Deebo got paid. But there is some guys that are still in need for a contract, so his numbers will fall down. Right now, he's paid as the 18th best receiver in the NFL. Unfortunately, he's probably not the 18th. He just hasn't been good. I was a really big Jerry Jeudy advocate when he was coming out of Alabama. I think I had him as like wide receiver 1 that class.
Yeah.
Over CD. And he just hasn't been good at all, which has been disappointing. Maybe a change of scenery will kind of benefit him, but Chris, do you think it's going to benefit him, or do you think it's going to be the same Jerry Jeudy?
Yeah, just like you were saying, I basically agree with you. Like, I was a big Jerry Jeudy fan coming out. He was in the same class as Henry Ruggs and them, right? So I had him around like wide receiver 2 in that class. I do think that he's been very disappointing thus far in the NFL. But yeah, the change of scenery could definitely help. I'm not really surprised that the Browns gave out this deal. They also they just recently gave out a bad deal to Deshaun Watson. So it's not really very surprising when it comes to the Browns.
Yeah.
But hopefully he can live up to the contract. I'm not gonna hate on him. Like I said, he always been one of my favorite wide receivers, but he has been disappointing. He definitely didn't deserve it. I didn't understand the contract. But I think that it could have been like a high risk, low reward, but now that you paid him before the season started, it's like the Browns are at risk right now. So hopefully he plays good though.
Yeah, and to kind of switch conversations, because I mean everyone knows that Jerry Jeudy, the mainstream reaction was this was an overpay. everyone knows it was an overpay. Like nobody's doubting that, other maybe some Browns fans, but even them have to be a bit struggling. What would concern me from a Browns outlook is now you have a lot of guys who are making a lot of money on both sides of the football, right? So you have Deshaun Watson, who, not even hating the dude, has just not lived up to his contract so far, right? Like he just hasn't. Nick Chubb has to be paid, which I think he's a free agent somewhat soon, but I could be wrong. Amari Cooper is getting paid $20 million a year, as we talked about. Now you have Jerry Jeudy getting paid $19 million a year. And I mean, you go to the defensive side, and you have Myles Garrett, who's going to get paid. If he hasn't already been paid, I think he's already been paid. He did. He got paid last year. That's right. And then you have this entire offensive line that is going to have to be paid because they're one of the best units in the NFL. So I'm really curious how in 2 years, if it's going to look similar to like a Saints situation where every offseason they're like negative $70 million in cap because they just don't have any wiggle room. Like this basically, and the next team we're going to talk about as well is kind of in the same situation where they're kind of pushing all of their cards into the table to try to pull what the Rams did a few years ago and just saying, we're going to pay all these guys money. And even if we win 3 games the year after, if we win a Super Bowl, who cares? And I'm not sure how sustainable that is, right? Like we saw it with the Rams. They won a ring. And like in your opinion, Chris, was like, what the Rams did worth it? Was it worth just getting the ring and probably not being another competitive team in like 5 years? Or would you just say push everything into the table and get a ring?
I mean, I feel like coming from in this instance, speaking of the Browns, bro, the Browns have been bad for so long. Yeah. They've been one of the worst teams in the NFL like since the 2000s, bro. So in this instance, I would risk it all and go all in if I was Browns. Yeah. So I kind of understand it, bro, but they got to be just a tad smarter when it comes to the moves.
Yeah, and obviously we'll see what happens in the draft and stuff like that. I mean, I don't think they have that many picks this year, so I don't think they can really change too much. So if they really need a wide receiver too, they probably had to overpay for him. I just feel like, you know, it from what we've heard so far, Jerry Jeudy was traded without a contract. So this wasn't a thing where it was like L'Jarius Sneed, for example, right? Like L'Jarius Sneed is like, you have to trade for him and pay him or we're not moving him. Jerry Jeudy seems like they could just trade for him. So if he's a good wide receiver 2 for them, even that's still a reach for $19.3 million. The only wide receiver 2 on that list, I think, is Chris Godwin, who even then is probably overpaid right now with how unhealthy he's been. And then you go down to a few million, you see Tyler Lockett, who then you could argue is worth his money. But the next team I want to talk about is kind of a similar situation, just in a little bit different. The New York Jets. I think by week 6, this is going to just be gone. Like in their build, they're getting names on their team, but we all know what happened last year, right? I mean, we know on September 11th, Aaron Rodgers came out running with the flag, huge scene. 4 plays in, popped his Achilles, right? So the Jets are doing the smart thing of we have to protect Aaron Rodgers because honestly, Aaron Rodgers would have been killed behind that offensive line last year anyway. So we have to protect Aaron Rodgers, right? They've made moves, but I just don't feel like the right move to protect him long term when you have the 10th overall pick is let's sign the left tackle who has never been able to stay healthy in the last 40 years. Like Tyron Smith is a good player when he's healthy. I mean, he's still a top 5 tackle when he's healthy. But like, I don't. What do you think about the Tyron Smith signing?
I think, like I said, I want to Washington to pick up Tyron Smith, but at the same time, it's like you said, he has been hurt. If he can stay healthy, it'll be a great pickup. But I think this is the problem with the whole Jets line. I think they have a lot of talent on the offensive line. A lot of the guys been hurt. Mekhi Becton been injured all throughout his whole career. I think Vera Tucker got injured the last year, if I'm not mistaken. Vera Tucker been injured. Like they have some pieces on that offensive line, like a lot of talent. If the guys can stay healthy, I think they would have no problem keeping Aaron Rodgers safe in the pocket. But it's just like none of those guys are a good mix when you have to bet on all of those guys staying healthy the whole season. I don't trust it. Tyron Smith most likely gonna end up injured again. He only getting older, so. I mean, it's what and what. I think if the deal was cheap, I don't know what the contract was, but if it's pretty cheap, it's not that.
It's okay. So here's where so they kind of had a good deal. It originally came out, it was 1 year, $20 million. It's not. So I think his base salary is maybe $12 million. So he's getting like a $12 million contract. there's a lot of incentives on gameplay and playoff wins. So if he plays a full season or a majority of the season, and if they win like one playoff game, he'll get $20 million, which is a lot of money for a left tackle. But if you get Tyron Smith for 95% of the season, he's worth $20 million. So I don't think the contract's that bad, but I still think at 10, you could have. Joe Alt is not going to be there at 10, who I think is we'll talk about the draft, obviously closer to the draft, but we're not that far away now. Joe Alt, I think, is a slide-in, plug-and-play left tackle starter day one. But you have some other guys, like you have J.C. Latham out of Alabama, who's a really good player. You have Olu Fashanu out of Penn State, who are both going to be there at 10 most likely. So do you want to pay, assuming he probably plays, let's say 12 games. I think that'd be a shot in the dark. But let's say he plays 12 games. Would you rather have Tyron Smith for 1 year for 12 games or Olu Fashanu or J.C. Latham at 10? And like your offense is good enough where like what other piece are you gonna add at 10? Like I'm seeing maybe you go Brock Bowers at 10 now, but I feel like you just had your left tackle at 10 and you're passing him up for a 1 year solution, which is why it looks like they're kind of just putting all the chips on the table, just saying this year's our year. So we talked about the Browns, what you thought about it. What do you think about the Jets, who technically have had more success, kind of pushing all their chips into the table, saying this is our year? What do you think about that?
The Jets. The Jets just not as talented, like you said. The Jets not as talented as the Browns. They got a lot more to go. Other than their defense, their offense was trash. But I mean, they haven't had Aaron Rodgers. It's really all dependent on how Aaron Rodgers come back. If Aaron Rodgers can come back and play like a top 3 quarterback, then they'll be all right. I think they wasn't as bad last season, but they were pretty bad. But like I feel like if you have Aaron Rodgers playing like he was the year before he got injured, they could compete in the AFC they could compete.
And then they made one more addition, a big addition, right? So they signed Mike Williams, 1 year, $15 million, who is another one of those guys that falls into that. If he doesn't get injured, he'll be great. Yeah. Which I just think when you're relying, especially on a field that is so notoriously bad for injuries too. Like it's like a notoriously MetLife is so bad for injuries. Yeah. To build an offense of if he doesn't get injured, and he doesn't get injured, is just so risky because Aaron Rodgers hasn't had injury issues before this year for the most part. But you're coming out of an Achilles, and we don't really know if he's fully healed. I mean, he was talking about listening to dolphin noises to heal. I mean, we're assuming he's fully healed, but a popped Achilles when you're almost 40 is an injury you just get over. Like it's a serious thing. And now, you have Tyron Smith and Tyron Smith, at least for him, hasn't had any usually his injuries are soft tissue related. He's tearing his ACL every year. So maybe he could kind of get healthy. Mike Williams, man, I don't remember the last time he played a full season. I'd have to check. He just not stayed healthy. He's a good player when he's healthy too. But good gracious, that man cannot stay healthy. So this offense, I just feel like to bet your entire, in all honesty, I think if you're the head coach, if you're the GM, if you're the offensive coordinator, the entire staff, you're betting your jobs on this year. And I just feel like betting as a GM, betting your jobs or your job on Tyron Smith staying healthy and Mike Williams staying healthy. Mike Williams maybe not so much because they could still win with just Garrett Wilson. But if you're the GM, you are betting your job Tyron Smith stays healthy, which is just because I really do think if they don't win a lot of games, they're all fired. I don't see a way Robert Saleh retains his job, even though I don't think he's a bad head coach. I don't see a way their GM keeps his job. And obviously, if Saleh gets fired, his entire offensive staff and defensive staff are gone. So, what do you – if you're predicting – right, we don't know who they're taking to 10, but do you think the Jets are going to be a good team this year? Would you bet your job on Tyron Smith and Mike Williams staying healthy, or would you kind of steer away to that to get a younger, healthier player?
I think that they should. I don't know how many picks they have necessarily in the draft, but they definitely should draft some younger players in that spot just in case those players were to go down. I don't think that you can fully rule them out of taking a tackle at 10 yet, but it kind of looks like they trying to plug in veteran guys right now. I think the Jets. I think the Jets can be a good team this season. Again, it's gonna be all dependent upon how Aaron Rodgers' quarterback play is this upcoming season, because that was one of their biggest things last season. I think that was one of their biggest things last season was the bad quarterback play. Their defense is great, so I think that if Aaron Rodgers comes back, they can be a really good team. But at the same time, I wouldn't be surprised if they're bad. Definitely if Aaron Rodgers don't come back the same. Like you said, he's 40 years old, coming off an Achilles tear, so we'll see.
So I think one thing to note while we're talking about quarterbacks, to kind of shift over again to another team. So there is a report that came out today, and I'm pretty sure it's like completely verified, that with Russell Wilson and the Giants, right? And obviously you're not the biggest Giants supporter, you're a Washington fan. So the report is that the Giants couldn't confirm Russell Wilson would be a starter in New York, and that was a main reason he didn't go there. That was the reason he go there, because they wouldn't tell him he's a starter over Daniel Jones. Now, one thing to note is Daniel Jones is getting paid a lot of money. And so there's a level of that of where you have to play the guy that's getting paid $40 million, which it's Daniel Jones. Like, I still can't believe we paid him or not we, but they paid him $40 million, but whatever. What are your reactions of the report? And when you take money to the account, do you feel like it was somewhat valid, or do you feel like they should have just gave up on Daniel, just got Russell?
All right, I'm gonna try to be objective as possible as I can be on this situation. Obviously, everybody know I'm not the biggest Giants fan. But look, the Giants, I'm really conflicted on this because, like you said, the money. I think where it starts is in the first place. They just messed themselves up in the first place, giving him the bad contract. That's all it is to it. Like really, that set them back. If he doesn't come back and play like an actual good quarterback, I don't think the year that he got paid, the year that made him get paid that type of money, I don't think he should have got that. The year he played, because he was just playing. He wasn't really doing anything, in my opinion. I felt like he was just playing real like cautious. Like he was just being a top tier game manager, and that's fine. But like $40 million for a game manager, bro, we gotta lower that down. And I think that they're gonna be screwed over until he comes back playing good. And if he doesn't come back playing good, they're just gonna be screwed over. With Russell Wilson, I do believe this happened, because I think there was many times that Russell Wilson said he would like to play for the Giants. That was one of the teams he wanted to play for the last time he was up to get a new team. So
yeah.
I do think this is a real thing that happened, and it's crazy that they can't. And it's not that Russell Wilson is the same Russell Wilson, so it's not as crazy as it normally would be. But at the same time, it's still kind of crazy because Russell Wilson would still be an upgrade. But like taking money into account is fair, bro. It's fair. Because their biggest bet is that Daniel Jones come back playing well.
Now, in my opinion, the Giants have had a pretty rough free agency so far. I mean, they did make the move to trade for Brian Burns, and they relatively trade compensation-wise got him for somewhat cheaper than originally thought. Obviously, we know what Carolina turned down for Brian Burns originally from the Rams, which Carolina is going to Carolina. Like, I don't see a way they're going to be competitive anytime soon, but that's not the point right now. One thing to point out is they paid him a lot of money, which I think for a guy that, in my opinion, or not even my opinion, I mean, the truth of it is they paid him top defensive player money for a guy that when it comes to stopping the run is subpar at best, which is concerning for me. Now, I get locking up a young guy in his prime who's a good player, but there's still the point of, is Brian Burns is really only effective when he can put his ears back, and rush the passer. So what, like, I know you're not I imagine you guys talked about this last episode too, but like your opinion's a little bit past it now of, do you think Brian Burns still, like, was he worth, like, if you were Washington, if he was traded to Washington, would you be okay with that contract with the, with those type of possibilities of, he's really only a pass rusher. Like, he's not a all-around defensive end like a TJ Watt, like a Myles Garrett. Like, what do you feel like when it comes to Brian Burns as a, like, all-world paid defensive player?
All right. Well, yeah. Basically, I will say this again, like you said, I'm not the biggest fan of the Giants, but I gotta be fair. When you have that happen to you, you get one of the best young defensive players in the league, and it's your team. You're gonna cope and try to find ways to make it sound like it was such a good deal. But since he didn't join my team, I'm gonna tell the truth. It was not a good deal, and here's why. Just like I said on the last show when we was talking about free agency, Brian Burns is a great young defensive player. He's great. He's a great defensive player. He's young. He's great at rushing the passer. But at the end of the day, he's not T.J. Watt. He's not Myles Garrett. And I don't think that he should have been paid like he's a game-changing type of player. He's not going to win you games single-handedly like T.J. Watt is. So I felt like it was an overpay just for that reason. He's going to be great. I feel like he's going to have a good season on the Giants, though. But at the same time, he's still not going. I don't think he'd ever live up to the contract because he's getting like paid like a game-changing DN, and I don't think he'll ever single-handedly win somebody some games, bro.
So here's something else to kind of look at. And again, you're in the division, so I think you can give a better perspective to this. So you'll see sometimes when a guy gets moved in the division, a star or like a really, really good player, the other teams in the division who have to play that guy now start kind of forming to counter that, right? Like you'll see, for example, when Danielle Hunter got traded to the Houston Texans, or got signed, not traded. You saw, Titans are probably going to pick a tackle at 7, but you saw these other teams start shoring up their offensive line. You saw and it's just the subtle effects. Yeah, it's J1. It's just the subtle effects that happen when a star gets moved to the division. Do you think Brian Burns has that impact to come into the division and Washington say, oh, like, we got to go get a left tackle now, or we got to go get a right? You know what I mean? Like, do you think he has that level of impact where you or the Eagles, someone like that's going to have to go get a tackle? Or do you think it's just like he's a good player, but,
Well, speaking as a Washington fan, I'd hope they'd be doing that anyways. But if in general, I think, like I said, Brian Burns is a great player. I think you definitely have to be. There's definitely some worry. You can't just look them over and be like, oh, they got Brian Burns, whatever, bro. But at the same time, I don't think, like I said, I don't think he's a game changer. But he's a really good player that you're gonna have to look out for. So I think you should boost up your O-line though.
Okay. Let's see. So I just kind of bouncing between stories. So Caleb Williams had his pro day today, and there were a lot of people there. I know Washington had a lot of guys there. Now, unfortunately, as you know and I know, the likelihood of Caleb Williams being there at 2 is very unlikely, and even more unlikely since the Justin Fields trade happened a few days ago for pretty much nothing. Justin Fields trade happened after we went live, right? So you guys didn't talk about it?
Yeah, we didn't talk about it.
So let's talk about Justin Fields. So as we all know, Justin Fields is I think a disappointing career so far is a fair statement. He's shown a lot of flashes. Now, I've honestly seen a lot of mixed reviews in this trade. They got him for pretty much nothing. I mean, I think they got him. I think Pittsburgh got him for like a next year's 6th or this year, like something super cheap. Luke is here. I didn't know he was coming.
Huh?
He's here.
What's up? What's up, y'all?
Okay. So we actually just got on a new topic. So you're here for it?
Wait.
So we're talking about Justin Fields. So we bounced through a few things. We actually just got to talk about the Giants, and you missed out on that. So.
Oh man, I think we shitted on them a little bit last week. So I think we got them all out last week.
Did you really? Okay, so we were talking about the fact of Caleb Williams' pro day, and then that the Giants, Washington most likely won't see Caleb Williams at 2, just because Justin Fields got traded, and now it's locked, and they're taking a quarterback at 1, right? So we're talking about the Justin Fields trade as a whole. Now, obviously, we know Justin Fields is going to be a backup next year, most likely, because Russell Wilson is a starter. Now, I wouldn't really be shocked if Justin Fields beats out Russell Wilson in camp, to be honest with you. I think he's just a more talented guy right now. And I know Russell Wilson's, I think, a better player right now. But you also have the point of a change of scenery, which is huge. But another huge point of when we talk about Daniel Jones and Russell Wilson, there is no hold to Russell Wilson this year. You're paying him $2 million. So if you want to start Justin Fields, who cares? Right? That's why I think it's huge for Justin Fields is he has a chance to come in and he could realistically leave training camp as a starter. Is it likely? Probably not. But Justin Fields is an uber talented guy. So I think with the trade compensation they get, I think it was a smart trade for Pittsburgh. It's not often, even if Justin Fields is your backup this year, he's a high-level backup, and most teams would trade a 6th-round pick for high-level backup. So let's start with Nico, since you just joined. Nico, what do you think about the Justin Fields trade? Did you think it was a good move on which side, or who do you think won the trade? That kind of all of a breakdown for it.
So going off of the deal, 100%, I wouldn't say the Bears didn't win, but the Bears, the Bears kind of just I don't want to say screw themselves over, but if you're seeing in the market these different quarterbacks that are being traded, like Sam Howell or Kenny Pickett, or I don't know any other quarterbacks that were traded over the summer or over the
Desmond Ritter, yeah, but
yeah, I mean there was some reasonable comp. I think the Bears could have got a little more, but I feel like they were just selling Fields for his value that was just way too high and way too significant. Going on to the Steelers side of it, Pittsburgh got a home run. I mean, they get Justin Fields. I mean, if everyone's saying that Justin Fields needs to be in the right situation, he needs to be in the right place to succeed, he needs to be where he is, and he'll perform. If that's what Pittsburgh is, then Justin Fields, this trade's going to look like a scam in a couple of years when he's starting. Right now, I give the edge to Pittsburgh, obviously, because they do get that untapped potential of Justin Fields if they're able to tap into it. I would say that Chicago's the loser, but they're getting Caleb. It's just like right now to me, Pittsburgh wins it. It could be a point in time where my mind could change only for the fact of how Caleb Williams succeeds and how Justin Fields succeeds. But I give the edge to Pittsburgh that they got the deal and they won that deal.
Chris, what do you think?
Justin Fields won, the Steelers won, and everybody won except the Bears. You can't really include them getting Caleb Williams in this because he wasn't really technically part of the deal. I know he's like the after effect of the trade. The Steelers home run, bro. They got 2 quarterbacks on their roster now that was better than Kenny Pickett. The Bears screwed themselves over because it's like, bro, you got Justin Fields going lower than Kenny Pickett and Sam Howell, and I feel like Justin Fields is probably better than both of those quarterbacks. And you got less. So it's just like, man, you really screwed yourself over. You held it trying to get people to reach on Justin Fields, and people wasn't buying it. People wasn't buying the Justin Fields hype from the Bears, and they got screwed over. The Steelers got 2 low risk, high reward type of players at quarterback. Great move for the Steelers.
Yeah, and I think something else to put onto that too is I think, in my opinion, what I've seen a lot of the national media kind of put out too is that they probably should have held on to Justin Fields longer. Like I think if you have Justin Fields as your backup, I think honestly you're drafting grown adults. So I think the point of, well, you don't want Caleb Williams looking over his shoulder. If Caleb Williams or whoever number 1 is, we're assuming it's Caleb Williams because it's most likely Caleb Williams. So let's just put Caleb in for this conversation. If Caleb Williams could not handle Justin Fields being his backup, then Caleb Williams will not be a good NFL quarterback, or Drake May, or like whoever it is. Yeah. So I think what reason, if you knew you're only getting a 6th for him, keep Justin on your as your backup. Wait until week 7 when, let's say, a Minnesota happens and Kirk Cousins goes down. You trade him then for 3rd round because this team's 5-2 and still wants to compete. That's what I think. Like if you knew you were only getting a 6th for him, what's even the point? Like, I'm sorry. Like how many? You hear about the miracle stories, but like maybe 1 6th round to pick, maybe 2 is like a starter in 6 years. So like, is it really worth it? I don't feel like it. That's just my opinion on it. I think the Bears should have just held on to longer if this was their trade comp. That's just my opinion, though. Mm-hmm. Moving back to Caleb Williams' pro day, everything I've seen, he looked pretty good. Obviously, pro days, I mean, they're not who really cares, to be honest. Like, I mean, pro days are cool, but like, I think Zach Wilson ruined pro days for everybody, to be honest with you. Shoot, you could put Malik Willis in there too, but like Malik Willis, we knew was going to blow it up. But because he had a great pro day too. But Zach Wilson ruined pro days for everybody. He just had a really good pro day, and everyone thought he was good. So I don't think this really moves the needle for everybody. One thing to note is Marvin Harrison Jr. I think we should talk about him for a second. Everyone knows he's a really good player. There's 2 topics about Marvin Harrison right now that are actually going to go around. So the first one to talk about is that Marvin Harrison Jr. is not working out at the combine, which already happened, and he didn't work out at his pro day. Initial reactions to a player like that not working on his pro day. Let's start with Chris.
I seen this earlier on TikTok. I want to say, first off, Marvin Harrison is pretty lame for what he's doing. You got to understand, Marvin Harrison is the biggest prospect Ohio State has this year, bro. And for to not show up to your pro day for your teammates, bro, to get your teammates also looked at is just pretty lame from a teammate perspective, bro. So you already got to be looking at that. I think that he already done enough. He probably shouldn't have to go to a pro day, like, because pro day is not, just like you said, pro day is not really going to show anything anyways, anything new, perhaps. So I understand his side. Like, he might just don't want to do it just because it serves no purpose. He could go out there and get hurt, and then then his draft stock plummets there. So I kind of understand it, but I feel like, oh no, hope he doesn't fall to 28. But yeah, I kind of feel like it was pretty lame. You gotta go out there for your teammates, bro. Just for them to get the looks from the scouts, bro. You don't want scouts not showing up just because you're not participating, bro.
Yeah, and I think it's weird too because last year we were watching the OSU receivers working out, and Marvin Harrison was lighting up at that pro day that wasn't even his pro day. He was just there lighting up, and everyone was like, "Oh, this dude's gonna be insane next year." So it's like, this is your year to do exactly what the OSU receivers did for you last year. And now, while everyone knew Marvin Harrison was a good player last year, part of the hype that came into the season was Marvin Harrison Jr. lit it up at a pro day that wasn't even really for him. And he had so much spotlight because you had all those, you had Jackson Jigba, and you had all of this point, and you had CJ Stroud as well, sorry. You had all of this focus on that OSU pro day. So, like, I feel like with no quarterback in this class from OSU, this is your chance to show, hey, we got more playmakers that are coming out this year or next year you guys should be looking at. So from a teammate perspective, it is kind of a douche move, to be honest with you. The combine, I don't really care about. I just think the pro day is like I feel like there's an extent you should work out because the pro day helps your teammates more than it helps you if you're a guy like Marvin Harrison. Nico, like, do you agree with Chris or do you have a different opinion on it?
No, I mean, it kind of just goes without a doubt. I think that in Marvin Harrison's case, he should have had his pro day today. I mean, he should have. Like you said, it's kind of something that he needed to do. It's something that he probably should have done, and he should have been there to try to help out his teammates and whatnot. But I also am looking at it from the standpoint of, like, Marvin Harrison's a top 5 block. I mean, I don't really see a reasoning of him falling. It's either going to be Arizona or the Chargers.
Tennessee. Yeah.
All right, realistically, he's not falling out of the top 5. I mean, between that, a lot of teams though are having, like, a lot of teams have Malik Nabers ahead of Marvin Harrison Jr. That was a report that came out.
That was the next topic, by the way.
Yeah, a lot of teams have Malik Nabers over Marvin Harrison Jr. It's starting to become, to me, that Marvin Harrison is, like, he's in his tier alone, but Malik Nabers' stock just keeps on rising, and I don't know. It's gonna be really interesting come draft day. I still think Marvin Harrison obviously is the first wide receiver taken off the board, but I don't know. It's gonna be interesting. I think that was kind of a dick move by Marvin Harrison today.
So one thing this is actually the next topic was, this is the exact same thing we see almost every year. If whoever turns in film, and I'm just being honest with you, Malik Nabers is a very, 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 very good receiver. Malik Nabers will probably be a very good wide receiver one in the NFL. But he is not better than Marvin Harrison Jr. And this is exactly, we're in this dead space, right? Where free agency's kind of died down a little bit and pro days are happening, and, you're hearing a lot of rumors come out. And you know what you're hearing right now? You're hearing teams rumors because you have a team like LA Chargers at 5 who are begging for Marvin Harrison Jr. to be there. And they're saying, please, please, please take Malik Nabers over him. And you have teams like, to be honest with you, you have other teams. Like, you have maybe, I don't think right now, but like Tennessee at 7 could be begging for Malik Nabers to go before Marvin, because you just most likely will have 3 quarterbacks in the top 5. And then you may have another one sneak in. J.J. McCarthy to the Giants seems like it has some sort of steam. Now, we don't know. I doubt he goes top 5 or top 6, but I just think, like, this is some smokescreen. I think Marvin Harrison Jr. is clear and above. Now, this doesn't mean it's not going to happen, right? We saw the exact same thing with Trayvon Walker a few years ago, where Trayvon Walker's been a good player, but Trayvon Walker was not a better player than Aiden Hutchinson that year, and he got drafted over him because of the smoke. So we don't know if this smoke is legit. Do teams really think Malik Nabers is better? Some maybe, but I think a majority probably think Marvin's better. But I don't know. Would you say this is popping up character concerns for him, or is it just kind of I don't want to say it's a red flag for not doing his pro day. Combine, but, like, do you guys think this pops up any sort of red flags or character concerns, or is it just like what do you got? Like, if you're a GM, what would this be on your note for Marvin Harrison for not doing this?
Chris, do you want to go? Do you want me to go?
Yeah, I got it. Yeah, I agree with Dylan's point about the smoke screens. I think that's very possible to be one of the things that's happening right now. As far as character concerns, I can see how this is hurting him. I don't think they necessarily would think he has character concerns just off of him not showing up to a pro day or a combine. But I think this is what's happened. You had Neighbors and Brian Thomas Jr. light up the combine. Neighbors didn't participate in the combine though. Well, Brian Thomas Jr., all them, they lighten up the guys. They pop off the screen when you watch their highlights and film and stuff. And it's just like Marvin Harrison isn't. I don't know, but Marvin Harrison, I feel like I wouldn't be surprised if teams had Neighbor over Marvin Harrison. And it's just Marvin Harrison Marvin Harrison probably should have participated to show these guys. I think a couple of guys are forgetting who Marvin Harrison really is. I've seen some people just tally him up as he gets a lot of respect just because he has a last name Harrison. I've seen a lot of people saying that, and I think that that's just so untrue. And I feel like a lot of guys forgetting who he is, and he probably should participate in his pro day and combine, and they would have seen what type of athlete he is.
Yeah, and kind of going off of what you're saying, and it's just I really don't think it's anything serious. I think it's just a bunch of teams that are talking to talk, and it's just draft hype around it, honestly, just around the conversation between Marvin Harrison and Malik Neighbors. End of the day, Malik Neighbors is going to be the second wide receiver taken off the board. Marvin's going to be the first. It's not like nothing's going to – I'm so sorry for all the text messages. I'm so sorry. It's not going to change anything. I still think it's going to be Marvin Harrison Jr., Malik Neighbors, Adunze, and then whoever falls to where. But I don't really speak to anything. But at the end of the day, Malik Neighbors is a baller. Malik Neighbors is a pure stud. Whoever gets Malik Neighbors is going to be a beast. And Marvin Harrison's great. I mean, I don't want to say it's a 1A, 1B situation because I do believe that Marvin Harrison is significantly better, but it's more of like a pick your poison, I guess. But I love both receivers. If Washington was in the situation for a receiver, I would not mind either one of those.
So Daniel Jeremiah, right, who's obviously a pretty well-known NFL analyst, released his mock draft, another one that just came out yesterday. I don't know if you guys have seen this yet, but we're going to go through it a little bit because there is some kind of shocking picks, right? So number 1's Caleb Williams, as we all expected. Number 2, you have Drake May, who I know you guys wouldn't be happy with, but it's not a shocker. He's at 2. Jaden Daniels went 3, who's also expected if Drake May is gone. Number 4, Daniel Jeremiah has the Vikings trading up to 4 to take J.J. McCarthy. J.J. McCarthy.
So they're trading up with Arizona?
They're trading up
with Arizona.
Yeah.
There's
a lot of trades, so we're going to get to these in a second. So,
you know what?
Go ahead.
Okay, you know what? I'm just going to start it off, I guess. I don't know. McCarthy, here's the problem, bro, is that if you need it, you go and get it. That's my thing. If you need quarterback in Minnesota, that team, I hate
McCarthy.
But who else are they going to go and get?
I would rather Michael Penix than J.J. McCarthy. At 23, I would. Okay, let me rephrase. I would rather draft Michael Penix at 23 than trade everything to get 4 to draft J.J. McCarthy.
But you got to. The Vikings must, if that's the real situation, then the Vikings must think that there's a gap. That it's Caleb, obviously. Then the tier 2 is Jaden and Drake, and then
we don't know. We just know it's a top 3, and then there's a drop off after JJ if they trade him.
Yeah, man. I personally, dude, I don't. If you need it, I say go get it because I do think McCarthy is the 4th best QB in the draft. And I say if you need it, go get it. But that's just me.
Yeah, and to talk about this comment, there is 0 way in the world the Patriots are going to trade out of 3 unless they just don't like the quarterback there. So, Chris, J.J. McCarthy at 4 with Minnesota trading up. What would be your reaction on the standpoint of the quarterback they take and just moving up in general for Minnesota?
Yeah. I mean, the Vikings are in dire need of a quarterback. I feel like it would be a very, 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 very desperate move from the Vikings. They just they really shouldn't do that. J.J. McCarthy getting a lot of love recently pre-draft. So I guess they would be jumping the Giants here to try to get J.J. McCarthy. It's just one of those things where it's you just jumping at any quarterback just because you're getting desperate. If you can't get Jaden Daniels or Drake May, you probably should just wait another year. And you're just gonna have to rock it out with Sam Darnold. I think they got Sam Darnold, so you would just have to rock it out with Sam Darnold, which would suck. But I mean, don't risk the rest of your future trading away first round picks to move up to 4 just to get JJ McCarthy. I'm not buying the JJ McCarthy move. I think it's kind of just like the Will Levis situation like last year that's getting a lot of hype pre-draft, and he's not going to get taken as high as everybody has him.
I will say about Minnesota, and this might be hot. This might be a really dumb take too. So I don't know. I mean, just prepare. I mean, all I'm going to say is this, okay? Kevin O'Connell's the head coach, right? Yeah, that's the name, Kevin O'Connell. Solid head coach, without a doubt. I think he's a solid head coach. Yeah, he's solid. I think if you're looking at it from the situation, I think if you put JJ McCarthy in there, that's probably the best situation that any one of them is going to get, obviously. I think if you throw JJ McCarthy or Caleb Williams, I guess you could say, if you throw JJ McCarthy on the Vikings roster, I still think that they could potentially finish second in the North. I think they could creep into a wild card even if they had McCarthy or they had Penix.
I get your point, but at the same time, back to what Dylan was saying, you get better value if you take Michael Penix, because if you put Michael Penix, that's the best situation for him too. So if you put Michael Penix can sling the ball probably better than JJ McCarthy. You got way more film of Michael Penix passing the ball than JJ McCarthy.
Yeah,
so
but you're
probably putting him in, and Michael Penix is older, so you don't. I think you got to sit JJ McCarthy for at least a year or two. So
here's one thing to add. I think is we're not even talking about this, but here's something to add too. Is there is a level of pressure on the GM of Minnesota and head coach. Let's not forget that Justin Jefferson was very vocal about them retaining Kirk Cousins. So there is a point of, is Justin Jefferson going to say, I'm going to go play a season with Sam Darnold?
No.
Exactly. So there's a point of, if you tell Justin Jefferson, we're going to get you a quarterback, maybe you trade a haul for a guy who's not, I don't think JJ McCarthy's going to be a very good quarterback. Maybe he could be serviceable. I think his ceiling's somewhat low. He could be a decent starter.
That's all he really has to be, though.
But it's not, though, because you're not going to win with that. So, I mean, if you have so for example, right, if other than, like, I mean, Kirk, who's I think has a higher, Kirk in his prime is better than I think JJ McCarthy will probably ever be, because Kirk in his prime was a really good player. You weren't winning playoff games with Kirk. So I would honestly rather have Michael Penix at 23, because I think Michael Penix is a more talented guy. And Michael Penix, I think if he's protected, that dude is a really good quarterback when he's not under pressure.
Two things.
Go ahead.
One, does he get past Vegas and Denver?
Who, Penix?
Yes.
If you don't take McCarthy at 4, probably. If you don't take McCarthy at 4, he slides. Maybe he goes to New York, but I doubt it. Because if they weren't going to sign Russell Wilson for $2 million and they won't guarantee him a starter, you're not going to take a quarterback at 6 to sit him.
Well, my thing is that taking Penix, wouldn't that be more of a risk on Minnesota because of the just prior injuries to his career?
So my Washington guys, y'all want May or Daniels more, someone else. Obviously, Jacob, I know you haven't been here in a while. They do not like Drake May. So Caleb Williams and Jaden Daniels is their answer. I don't think they have to answer that. So, yeah, I mean, you have some teams that could take Penix. I mean, you have Denver, who obviously needs a quarterback. Past Denver, then you go to Vegas, who needs a quarterback. Right now, their quarterbacks right now are Gardner Minshew and Aiden O'Connell. Come on. Other than that,
what about Bo Nix? I mean, that poor guy does not get talked about one fucking bit. Like, it's always
Bo Nix doesn't get talked about because his offense was really, really gimmicky, but it was also incredibly talented. And he's also old, and he only performed when he got into this offense. Now, I've seen some Bo Nix hype actually kind of start to creep up a little bit. I think I saw him going 12 not too long ago. But we'll see. So, moving on from number 4 with Minnesota, you go to number 5, who's another trade. Now, I think this is stupid. The Chargers trade back with the Jets to number 10. The Jets trade up and get Marvin Harrison Jr., which if the Chargers pass on Marvin Harrison Jr., I would be...
At that point, trade fucking Herbert, bro.
Yeah, give him Tennessee. Yeah.
Bro, I bet you. Hold on, bro. I bet you this, bro. If Justin Herbert went to Tennessee, Dylan would not say a single word about Will Levis for the rest of his life, bro.
Hey! If y'all drafted Jaden Daniels and you guys traded for Justin Herbert, you wouldn't say a single thing about Jaden Daniels, bro. Be real. Maybe Caleb, but not Jaden. So they traded up with the Chargers They got Marvin Harrison Jr. Now, from a Jets standpoint, would be a huge win. Harbaugh
That'd be so fucking. I see that. That'd be so funny if that did
That would be
happen.
funny. So I think we can all agree this would probably be a dumb trade on the Chargers' point, good trade on the Jets' point, right? Like I feel like that would be kind of a consistency here. I don't know if anybody disagrees.
That just would be stupid.
Okay, so moving on from 5, because there's not really a point of talking about that one. The New York Football Giants would take Malik Nabers at 6, who I think is just a smart pick here. I think with your needs and who's available, he's the best player available. It's like the most commonly mocked thing I've seen is Caleb Williams 1 and Malik Nabers 6. So what do you guys think? Let's start with Chris. Do you think that's right? I mean, I know you don't like the Giants, but is that the right pick for them to go with Malik Nabers?
Yeah, the Giants been dodging, picking an actual wide receiver instead of Wan'Dale Robinson, Kadarius Toney. They've been dodging taking an actual wide receiver that's actually not like some gimmick wide receiver like jet sweeps and shit. But Malik Nabers would be the right pick for the Giants. I think that's the pick they should make. They picked JJ McCarthy. I know I'm not that bad of a hater of JJ McCarthy, but it still would be a bad pick value wise. So yeah, Malik Nabers is the right pick for them.
Nico, what do you think? I know you said you're a Malik Nabers fan, so what do you think?
Yeah, I mean Malik Nabers in New York, you can't fuck it up. That's just something you can't fuck up. Giants, I mean, there's no way. But with this Chargers stuff heating up, and with this, Cardinal stuff, I mean, now they both need weapons. So now if you're New York, you're sitting at 6, you're sitting on the outside now, because now it's going to go quarterback, wide receiver, and then the Giants are stuck at what? What are they going to do? They're going to go get Brock Bowers, or are they going to? Okay. Yeah, I mean, they're going to go Brock Bowers. I mean, don't they have Waller? Is Waller retiring? That's something that nobody knows about either.
Yeah, that's kind of.
What's up?
Yeah, the Darren Waller thing's unanswered right now, so we don't really even know if Darren Waller is going to be suiting up for the Giants next year. They could look at Brock Bowers if
they could.
Nabers wasn't there.
Yeah, I mean, they could also do the old-fashioned trade down too if they just don't like what's there. But if you're New York, you really can't settle for that option right now because you're in that weird spot with Daniel Jones where it's like you got to give him something, but you don't know what to give him. You can go give him Brock Bowers, but you got to make sure Brock Bowers is healthy and he's all good because I don't even think he's having a pro day. Is he? I don't think he is. I haven't heard of Brock Bowers having a pro day yet, but
I didn't hear it.
Yeah, but I don't know. For New York, it would just be they're in a really bad spot because now everybody's camera's dying. Jesus. Oh, there we go. Brock Bowers. I mean, not Brock Bowers. The Giants are now in a bad spot where I think New York needs to trade up. I think now because there's no way that they're gonna get out of 4 and 5, and then at 6, there's no need for. They don't have a wide receiver to take, or unless you want to take Brock Bowers, which. Again, not a bad option, but you gotta look at Brock Bowers as everyone's dying. You gotta look at Brock Bowers' health too, and you gotta really take that into consideration at the end of it too. I was just telling Chris Dillon that the Giants are in a pretty shit spot now because of the Chargers situation, and they're in an awful spot.
Because there's a very high chance, I think, with the Giants at 6 that if we're assuming no trades happen, there's a pretty high chance, man, that you see the Giants at 6 and they don't have Malik Nabers or Marvin Harrison on the board. And then what do you do? Like, I don't think Brock Bowers is the pick, huh?
You reach on a Dunze.
I don't think Adunze is a reach at 6. I think Adunze is a really good player. So I don't think he's a reach, but I think I think it's all dependent on system, right? So I think Adunze is going to be a really good player. By the end of it, Adunze could be a better player than Malik Nabers. But Malik Nabers is really explosive. And I think if you're the Giants, you need that explosive guy down the field, and you have Jalen Hyatt, but come on now. Like, again, he's just not a guy who's going to be a big difference maker. When Malik Nabers, he is, I think Malik Nabers, day one, you can't line him up one-on-one in the NFL. I just don't think I know it sounds like a lot of praise for coming from a rookie, but, Rome Odunze, I think, will take a minute to adjust. I think he will have a rough year one. He may have, a 700-yard season. Malik Nabers, I think, day one is going to be a high-level player. So if Malik Nabers and Marv are gone, you can go to Odunze, but Odunze, when I feel like it's going to have a bit of a rough year one, just adjusting to the speed, is Odunze really going to be what Daniel Jones needs? Probably not. And then, I mean, if Daniel Jones sucks this year, you have to. I feel like you have to get rid of him. No, like, I think it's kind of in the situation you're in with the Giants. So
Yeah.
that's kind of my opinion on the whole thing. Moving on to 7, the Titans taking Joe Alt. I talked about Joe Alt a bit earlier. Love Joe Alt. If he's there at 7, home run. Your left side, I think, would be set for the next 5-10 years with Skoronski, Alt, and Cushionberry. So who cares?
Yeah.
8, Dallas Turner, probably one of the most mocked things ever.
Yeah.
Now, I kind of feel bad for Atlanta because, like, this is like the one year they really need like an all-world defensive player to be up here, and like they're just not. Like, I think Dallas Turner is good, but like, I don't know. I learned my lesson last year. I was kind of low on Will Anderson last year, and then he didn't even he proved me wrong last year. So maybe Dallas Turner will be a really good player, but it kind of sucks. I wouldn't be surprised if the edge out of UCLA, Liatu Latu goes at 8 because he's a really good pro day, but a lot of injury concerns. So moving on, 9, the Bears would get Rome Odunze, who the Bears are in a fun situation because there's a likelihood that they leave the draft with Rome Odunze and Caleb Williams, which, I mean, that's a really good combo to be leaving day 1 with. I don't care who you are. So
let's go fuck it
Bears
up.
are gonna have some exciting football next year, man. I'm very excited to watch some Bears.
You know they're gonna fuck it up. You know they can't fuck up 1, but you know they'll fuck up 9 somehow. Let's just be real.
Okay, so I think
no, dude, didn't they take Darnell Wright over fucking Peter Skoronski last year?
And Darnell Wright had like a really, really good year.
Nah, fuck that. That's
no. I mean, I'm not disagreeing. I'm just saying like Darnell Wright had a good year, and like I think Skoronski was a better player. But you could argue Darnell Wright had a better rookie year than Skoronski. So
Dylan, don't lower yourself to that, man. You're better. You're better than that. Don't fucking listen to that.
But like, even if you're reaching, maybe let's assume they're gonna take Caleb Williams at 1. Who I think if you don't, it's a very interesting thing. I know I have Drake May QB1, but like I think he's a clear pick at 1 if you're Chicago with that offense.
Why wouldn't Drake May go number 1, Dylan? You're so high on him.
I'm saying for the offense that the Bears are going to run in with the hype that they've got into it, they're taking Caleb 1. Let's say you reach on wide receiver at 9 and you don't take a Dunze. Even if you take Brian Thomas at 9, like I don't think Brian Thomas is worth the 9th overall pick, but like if you're leaving day 1 with Brian Thomas and Caleb Williams, like are we really mad about that? Like,
nah, they're gonna be like Ladd McConkey. That's how they'll fuck it up.
That would be hilarious.
Now they're gonna fall in love with Ladd McConkey and they're gonna be like, fuck it, we're gonna take him over at Dunze and
dude,
call.
Imagine it goes Caleb Williams at 1 and then Xavier Worthy at 9, dude. I'd start dying. You know. They're like, we just need speed downfield, guys.
Dude, they saw, but there's the thing though. I don't really understand why they'd go wide receiver in the first round. Like now, like that doesn't make.
I don't think Keenan Allen would change your perspective on that. I think if you, so here's why, right? Because you have
coming off of a career year though. I mean,
so here's why I'm saying that. Keenan Allen is an older receiver, who he has a pretty big deal. But I think realistically, especially with Odunze, who I just said I think is going to take a minute to adjust. If your wide receiver core is DJ Moore, Keenan Allen, and then Rome Odunze on a rookie deal, when Keenan Allen leaves in 1 year or 2 years, depending how good Odunze is, then you have, I mean, Caleb Williams is going to have, at least for the first 4 or 5 years of his career, 2 really good receivers. Which if you're a team building around a quarterback, that's what you want. So like I get it. At 10. The Chargers trading back, taking Talisi Fuaga, the offensive tackle out of Oregon State, who's a good player, but where we're going to get a receiver at is the big question for me.
Second round.
That's what. But like who? Like who's going to be it when you lost everyone? That's what would be concerned about me. Hold on just a second. 11, you have Jared Verse to the Arizona Cardinals, the edge out of Florida State. Okay, like I mean that's a fine pick. At 12, you have Brock Bowers to the Denver Broncos.
Dude, he went from a top 5 draft pick to top.
Well, she's just a tight end. I mean, it's just all it is. Like
generational. Remember, it was generational tight end that they were
generational. And he went 8, I think. Then you have 13, the Las Vegas Raiders taking Michael Penix Jr., who Michael Penix, I think would fit right into Las Vegas's culture they're building right now. I think that'd be a good spot for him, to be honest with you. I think he would have issues because Michael Penix is a completely different quarterback when he's under pressure. Pretty big Penix supporter, man, but the injuries and what he does under pressure is a bit concerning. But he would go have Devontae Adams, so that's a plus to any rookie quarterback. What do you guys think about the fit for Michael Penix to Las Vegas, Chris?
I think it'd be fun for Devontae Adams at least. Overall, it's again one of those just desperate moves. Las Vegas, another team that needs a quarterback. Whiffed on every other possibility. Didn't get Kirk Cousins. Didn't get Justin Fields. Didn't get Kenny Pickett. Didn't get any of the quarterbacks that was on the market. It's just one of those moves they have to desperately get somebody because I'm sure no Raiders fan wants to throw Aiden O'Connell out there again, bro. So. I think this is just gonna have to be one of those desperate moves. I think it'd be a fun fit as far as the Devontae Adams connection, like Dylan said. So yeah.
Nico, what do you think?
It's the same thing with the whole McCarthy and the Minnesota thing. You need it. They just can't roll into the season with Gardner Minshew or Aiden O'Connell. They desperately need something to develop, and the culture that they have going on in Las Vegas is just spiraling up ever since they let go of McDaniels and the whole Gruden and everything. So I mean, go get yourself Michael Penix. He could be good. He could be mediocre. I just don't think he'll be bad. But you're just gonna really have to then buff up your line throughout the draft, so you don't put him under pressure.
At 14, you have Olu Fashanu going to the Saints, who nobody's talking about. Like, Olu Fashanu's had like a really big drop off recently. Like, when mock drafts first started coming out not long ago, like Olu Fashanu was like number 5, number 7. Like, I saw him going to Tennessee a ton. Now we're seeing. I think I saw him back a few days ago. I don't remember who it was, but I think he had him like going like 17. Like, he's falling off for some reason. He's still a really good player. I think he's still offensive tackle too. So 14. I mean, if they can get him now. You would be giving up on Trevor Penning, who I think is a fair product to give up on, but you drafted him 2 years ago in the first round, so I don't know if you give up on him yet, but something to be said. At 15, the Indianapolis Colts taking Quinyon Mitchell, the corner out of Toledo, who had a pretty good Senior Bowl. I mean, he got burnt a few times, so I'd be a bit concerned, but prototypical size, he ran a 4.3 at the combine, so I think he's 6'2". He's a big dude, so good stuff out of him. I guess just a plug and play for Indianapolis to see if Anthony Richardson's going to be good next year. It's kind of a depth piece at that point. At 16, you have the Seattle Seahawks taking Troy Fontenot. I don't remember how to say his last name.
He's getting mocked all the way to the first.
So he was dropping, and then he had arguably one of the greatest combine performances from all time for an offensive tackle. And now he's back up in the first round. His combine was ridiculous. Now, he translates more to be a guard, so it's why the Seahawks would take him. And if he hits as a guard, the Seahawks have 3 young offensive linemen who would probably be good for the next 5-10 years. So that'd be interesting. 17, Terrion Arnold, the corner out of Alabama, going to Jacksonville Jaguars. I was kind of disappointed with him. I thought he was going to run pretty well at the combine. Ran a 4.5, which is good enough with his size, but like didn't really help him a lot. We talked about this a little bit. There's guys who may not help themselves at all, and he didn't hurt himself, but he definitely didn't help himself in the draft stocks.
Yeah.
18, I would be shocked. Oh, he still said that with the notes. 18, the Bengals take J.C. Latham, the tackle out of Alabama. Even in his notes, he says even with Trent Browning signing a 1-year deal with the team, they should still draft J.C. Latham, which I think is stupid. I'm actually going to.
I thought J.C. Latham was an interior offensive lineman. I did not think
he is a right tackle.
Well, isn't that one? Isn't Trent Brown on a 1-year deal though?
Trent Brown is on a 1-year deal. That's correct.
So I mean, I think you should just do something like depth-wise in the second round. That'd be a dumb pick in the first.
Chris, what do you think about drafting J.C. Latham when you just signed Trent Brown?
Yeah, I feel like it's not that bad of a move. I mean, because Trent Brown could just not work out, and he could move on after this season. It wouldn't be that bad of a pick.
Yeah,
Jason gonna be a really good player.
After that, you have the Los Angeles Rams going to get Laiatu Latu, UCLA edge. Would be a good pickup for them. Has injury concerns. Very similar to the Miami Dolphins edge, whose name is escaping me right now. They drafted a few years ago out of Miami in the first round. Justin Phillips. Or no, is it Justin Phillips? Jalen Phillips, right. Like identical. Really good production, injury issues. I'm pretty sure Laiatu, his name's tough, but I'm pretty sure he had to retire due to medical reasons as well, just like Jalen Phillips. So it's weirdly similar. At 20, the Pittsburgh Steelers take Tyler Guyton, the offensive tackle out of Oklahoma, who is the most project offensive tackle I've seen in a minute. Could be a really, really good player, but if he's a starter day one, Russell Wilson's going to be killed. After that, the Miami Dolphins taking Graham Barton, the guard out of Duke. Let's go speed run these last few real quick. Philadelphia taking Nate Wiggins, the Clemson corner, who is really, really tiny and would be interesting in a Philadelphia defense, but really tiny. Go ahead.
Oh, just another DB for Terry McLaurin to fuck up, but yeah, how you
Anyway, 23, the Cardinals, this is 4. They take Brian Thomas Jr. at 23, the LSU wide receiver, who is a very, very good player. I think he ran a ridiculous combine performance too, no?
Yeah.
Actually, I want to see his 40. Hold on.
4.35.
Is it 4.35?
Yeah.
4.34, yeah. 24, Dallas Cowboys taking Jackson Powers Johnson, the I think he's a center, right, out of Oregon. 25, Green Bay Packers taking Amarius Mims, the offensive tackle out of Georgia. Then you go to 26, Darius Robinson, the edge out of Missouri. A bit of a reach for him, but he's going to Tampa. Brian Murphy, the second, defensive tackle out of Texas, going to the Cardinals. Jerzan Newton. Do you guys know who that is?
Jerzan Newton.
Anyway, Illinois.
Interior defensive lineman for Illinois.
Yeah, Illinois defensive tackle. I haven't watched him. Illinois defensive tackle going to the Buffalo Bills at 28. Kool-Aid McKinstry, who's another guy who had a weird fall. Like Kool-Aid McKinstry's a really good player.
Yeah.
Why is he in the background of the first? But Kool-Aid McKinstry going 29th to the Detroit Lions, which would be huge for them.
That'd be a demon.
Cooper DeJean, the sole white corner in the history of college football, going 30th to the Baltimore Ravens. Well, you're giving that look, but Cooper DeJean's like a really good player. So
No, I'm shocked that he's not higher.
Yeah, I think PFF has him as like the 8th best player in the draft or something crazy, which isn't true. But at 31, San Fran taking Chop Robinson, the edge out of Penn State, who would be fun in that system. And then finally, 32nd, KC taking Adonai Mitchell, wide receiver out of Texas, who I'd be pretty pissed if they got AD at 32. So going through them, other than the guys we went through, is there any picks that kind of stick out to you guys, whether it's like Nate Wiggins or Kool-Aid McKinstry falling? Like any guys you guys feel like should be higher or lower than they originally drafted?
Yeah, Jacob, we do this every Wednesday. That first round was that first 10 was just head scratchy. The Jets, the Jets, and then the Chargers, and then the Giants. The Giants are, I don't know. The Giants could come out as big losers if they don't know what the fuck they're doing.
So, I mean, why do you say that? So, I mean, obviously, it's not even if they don't know what they're doing, right? So, I'm not assuming they're going to pass on Malik or whoever's there. It's just a point of if the board doesn't fall to them. Like, unfortunately for the Giants, if they would have lost 1 or 2 more games, they would have had a top 4 or 5 pick. And they would have locked themselves one of them. But unfortunately, they just aren't there. And they're in a bad situation where the Chargers are going to take a wide receiver. I would be completely shocked if the wide receivers don't take a wide receiver now, or if the Chargers don't take a wide receiver. So they're just in a bad situation. Like there's a very, very high likelihood at 6 there isn't a top 2 guy there, and they're taking a Dunze or they're drafting somebody else. So I don't think it's as much on them as it's really unfortunate to be a Giants fan right now if you wanted a wide receiver and Malik Neighbors. Like it's very unfortunate, man.
Yeah, it's bad.
Let's see. Anything you guys want to add? Not draft wise, just in general.
Not really. No.
No, you guys are good. One thing I do want to, we talked about this earlier with Chris, Nico, the Jerry Jeudy contract, $19.33 million a year. We went over the receivers that were around him. He's getting paid more than guys like Deontay Johnson, Christian Kirk, Cortland Sutton, Tyler Lockett. He's getting paid within $3.5 million of guys like Amari Cooper, Keenan Allen, Mike Evans, T. Higgins, Terry McLaurin, Calvin Ridley, DJ Moore, guys like that. He's all in that range. So what do you think from your perspective of the Jerry Jeudy contract, and would you have gave that contract if you're the Browns?
That was the stupidest contract. They just love handing out money, man. There's no such thing as salary cap in Cleveland, bro. I don't know, man. I looked at his like just base stats the other day, man. He is yet to crack 1,000 yards. He has 1,000 yards of 1,000 yards of scrimmage, but I don't think that should earn him of the contract that he received. Granted, he hasn't had a quarterback yet. To really kind of untap the potential. I mean, I guess you could say Russell Wilson, but I mean, he kind of got the back end of Russell Wilson in that first year he came in there. Russell Wilson didn't play that good, and then he played that good season. I don't know how good he was last year, but I know he came off like 900 yards last year, and then I don't know. But all in all, if it pans out, hopefully if he doesn't really pan out, but he'll go. But if he plays really well, it's gonna be great. Yeah, I mean, as a wide receiver too, I guess that's what Cleveland is valuing him at a high wide receiver 2, bottom end wide receiver 1. So I can't hate, but as of right now, I just don't like the contract for him. He has to really play. He has to at least crack 1K on Cleveland.
So one thing I kind of want to talk about before we leave, well, is we talked about a little bit earlier about the Daniel Jones contract and how it kind of hindered them a little bit. So you've had, I think, an offseason and a half now to kind of let the market kind of set in. Because whenever a player first gets paid, it doesn't really show what it's going to be like in a year. You saw how many other players get paid. So for the Daniel Jones contract now, he is the 10th highest quarterback in the NFL. He's getting paid $40 million a year, which is the same rate as a few other guys. So he's getting the exact same rate as Dak Prescott. He's getting the exact same rate as Matthew Stafford. He's getting more money than Aaron Rodgers, Derek Carr, Jared Goff, Baker Mayfield, and some other guys. And then the guys he's in the range with, right? I did the same thing of let's do a little bit higher to quarterbacks. Let's do $5 million within Daniel Jones' contracts. He is getting paid within $5 million of Josh Allen. He's getting paid within $5 million of Patrick Mahomes. He's getting paid within $5 million of Kirk Cousins. He's getting paid within $6 million of Kyler Murray and Deshaun Watson. And I think it just goes to the point of really no matter where you stand at this point, he's not in the league with any of those guys. Even if you're saying the guy, like he's not in the league with Matthew Stafford. He's not in the league with Dak Prescott. And, I mean, obviously, sure as hell not in the league. I mean, who paid Daniel Jones $3 million less than Josh Allen? $3 million per year less. $5 million per less than Mahomes. Like, it just shows how hindering. But obviously, we'll see how stuff pans out. Maybe he comes back and has an all-pro year next year. I'm just saying. I just
come on. Let's aim for realistic. Let's aim for realistic achievements for Daniel Jones. The Pro Bowl. Then we'll start with that. If that's sad that he to put him even. It's just that Daniel Jones, I just can't, bro. Like he's just hot ass, dude. I just can't. Daniel Jones is just not good. I mean, he's never even thrown for 4,000, right?
I don't think so. I'm pretty sure he's like pretty close.
I don't think he's ever thrown for 4,000. I think he's thrown over 20 TDs once. And the fact he's only getting paid $3 less million than Josh Allen per year is it's criminal. The fact that's saying that Josh Allen deserves, I guess, more money than Daniel Jones. Because the $3 million close is just really close.
So when I left last show, did you guys talk about the Calvin Ridley contract at all? I know we talked about him, but did you guys talk about the contract at all? You guys did. Did you guys think he was overpaid?
I know we mentioned it. We talked about it a little bit after you left, and it came up in like bits and pieces as we were talking about it. But we can talk about it real quick. I mean, I think it's if you Tennessee needed another playmaker in there. DeAndre Hopkins is aging a little bit. I think you need another playmaker to help out Will Levis and do everything you can to help out Will Levis. So I didn't really. I think it's a slight overpay, not a massive overpay, but it was a good deal for the Titans to get that.
Chris, what do you think?
No, it was definitely an overpay. I do understand. There's a couple pluses in it though. It's an overpay, but there's some pluses in it. You take a top weapon from your competitor, your division, and I feel like. Oh well, that's really the only one, bro. But you take a top guy from your division rival. That's good. But other than that, I can't really find no plus. I feel like the draft is pretty deep wide receiver wise for them to not have to do that. But they did it, and I feel like he could. I feel like he could actually live up to the. He could play up to the contract. But as of right now, as of what he's done so far, no.
So do you get like? Obviously, we'll see what happens and this is just a question at this point. Does Jerry Judy's contract make Calvin Ridley's contract look a little bit better? Like, you see a guy gets overpaid, and I think we can all agree, at least to an extent, right? Jerry Jeudy got overpaid, I think, more than Calvin Ridley did, just because Calvin Ridley this is produced the NFL level consistently. So, do you guys think that Jerry Jeudy's contract is going to make it a bit easier of a cushion to look at, or Nico's not shaking his head no?
I'm just like,
Eh.
I mean, like Calvin Ridley and Jerry Jeudy, I believe I think they're just a lot further from me. Not like a lot further, but they're just two different players for the impact of the teams that they've been on.
Calvin Ridley is a significantly better player than Jerry Jeudy.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Okay,
but
just making sure.
Yeah, no, that's what I'm saying. Like when you're going to compare the contract, it's really difficult to compare those two people with that contract because you're comparing Calvin Ridley, who has been established number one. Obviously, with the gambling and all that, he had to take the year off. He kind of regressed a little bit, but you can rely on Calvin Ridley. When I'm looking at Jerry Jeudy, it's Jerry Jeudy it's just the fact that he's cracked over. Has he cracked over 900 once? Hasn't even cracked 800 more than twice. Only once too. He's had like consistent back-to-back 700-yard seasons. I mean, it's just like I think you're just comparing two different tiers at that point. So I mean, because obviously Calvin Ridley's a couple tiers ahead of Jerry Jeudy in my opinion, and so I don't know. For me, does it make it look better? Sure, but you have to look at the type of players that they both are at the end of the day.
So one of the final things. So L'Jarius Sneed sweepstakes seem to still be open to an extent. There's some reports that are coming out recently. You flipped me off. I haven't. Just to be honest with you, I haven't heard Washington be in the conversation for him.
No, I'm just saying if you get him, this is just
which I'm not sure why. To be honest with you, like why they wouldn't be in the talks for him. Just because from what I've seen and heard, because Tennessee's obviously big in the conversation for him. I think Indy is as well as some other teams. From what I've seen, the comp is about a second or third this year. Which, if you're Washington, like, would you guys not give that? And now another thing I've seen as well, which there's so many reports right now that are so much smokescreen, so it's hard to kind of feed through them, is that there's been trade comp agreed to for whether it's Indy or Tennessee. But the issue is that L'Jarius Sneed wants to be the highest paid corner in the NFL, which would put him at $22 to $23 million a year.
Damn.
Do you guys think L'Jarius Sneed is worth that? And if you were Washington, would you give the Chiefs a call to say, hey, third-round pick and paying him? Or would you say, no, I'm good?
There you go.
I mean, we don't got no corners, and L'Jarius Sneed was probably one of, if not the best corner in football last season. So with that being said, I would pay the money. I'm not gonna lie, I'd pay the money. If it was a second and a third, and then pay him, I'll take it.
Well, from what I've seen, it's not a second and a third. It's just a second. From what I've seen, I think a third this year would be agreed to by the Chiefs. It's just getting him to agree to a contract.
Yeah.
Which, from what I'm seeing, is I imagine it's not just about $22 million a year. I imagine it's about the guarantees. So I think a lot of teams, this is all reports, is that Tennessee's offered $20 million a year and he hasn't accepted it. So if it was just $2 million difference, I imagine they would pay it. I bet it's more of like he wants like a lot guaranteed. Nico, you're muted. Are you ready or are you good?
I'm good. Yeah, so the L'Jarius Sneed contract. Overall, if I'm Washington, just kind of going after what the front office is doing, they're not going to do it. They should, but they're not going to. They're not going to spend, half of our cap salary on one third of it left on L'Jarius Sneed. As much as I love L'Jarius Sneed, I've been a L'Jarius Sneed fan for a long time. Dylan can vouch. But contract is going to be way too high for a team like Washington, who came out and said they're not going to be major spenders. So yeah, I don't see it really happening. I see more of like a Greg Newsom.
Do you guys think L'Jarius Sneed gets moved at all at this point, or do you think he's gone?
What?
Do you guys think L'Jarius Sneed is going to get moved at all, or is he just going to stay with the Chiefs?
I think it's just going to be talking, and then nothing's going to happen, and then he'll end up getting re-signed to a little something, and it's about it.
I think he'll stick with the Chiefs.
Yeah.
And then a similar player in the same position, T. Higgins, right? Do you guys think Now, I've noticed T. Higgins conversations kind of slowed down a little bit from what I've seen. Now, I'm pretty sure the New England Patriots are betting favorites to get him right now. I think they're number one, just because they missed out. Now, from the report that came out is that they were very heavily in pretty much the wide receiver market as a whole. They've whiffed on a lot of these guys. Obviously, it was them and Jacksonville was for Calvin Ridley, and then Tennessee came in at the last minute. Do you guys think T. Higgins will get moved at all? Or if he does, do you think it's New England? Or what's the best fit for T. Higgins outside of Cincinnati?
Oh, you want to go?
Yeah, I think he'll get moved like draft day, probably before day 2 starts, because I think he's gonna get moved for at lowest a day 2 pick. So I think he gets traded probably to the Patriots. I think the Patriots have to get a wide receiver, bro, and they also need a quarterback, so they can't just take a wide receiver first round necessarily. So I think that you got to go in and trade him for T. Higgins.
Yeah, I don't think so either. I just think it's a lot of talking, and nothing's gonna happen. He'll get the extension done, in my opinion. If there was between Snead and Higgins of who would get traded, I think Snead only has the higher chance to get traded, just due to the fact that he may want to be in just a new spot where he can just be in the established one. Because I know McDuffie's getting a lot better behind him, and McDuffie could take over that one spot with Kansas City. And I don't think if T. Higgins is smart, I think he should just try to negotiate and stay in Cincinnati if he can not take an at home like a hometown deal, but take a deal where he gets his bag, but he's not getting too much, just so we can stick around and keep that offensive core. Because I mean, let's not forget this team was legit 4 quarters away from winning the Super Bowl, or not even like maybe a quarter from winning the Super Bowl.
So Nico, what do you think the draft comp is for T. Higgins?
A second.
So here's my question. Why is T. Higgins a receiver who has been a wide receiver to his entire career and just has been good but hasn't been insanely good, just kind of been a good wide receiver too? Why is he worth a second, but L'Jarius Sneed, an all-pro corner, isn't to you?
Because I just think when you got to look at the contracts, I mean, T. Higgins is not going to be getting paid the top wide receiver money.
But even him right now on a tag is 21.3. So if we're saying L'Jarius Sneed's 22, if T. Higgins only gets 21, I'd rather pay $1 million extra a year for an all-pro corner than a wide receiver who we don't know is a wide receiver 1 yet.
Yeah, that's kind of going back to what I'm saying too about him just staying in Cincinnati. I don't really see a point of him moving, because it could be you could sign him to a fat deal and then he is going to be not that good. And if you keep him on a hometown deal in Cincinnati, he could easily, live up to his, wide receiver 2 contract, and he has a chance to go out and get a Super Bowl. He's not going to get a Super Bowl, or he's not going to help elevate it. I don't think he can elevate whoever quarterback he goes to, like if it's a rookie quarterback. But if he's like a 2 on another team, or like there's like 2 really good number 2s. And then with L'Jarius Sneed, I don't know, man. I just think L'Jarius Sneed's just higher at this position right now. He's coming off of a career year, unlike Higgins, who I think was battling a lot of injuries that year.
I'm just trying to see if I can find a projected contract, but I cannot. But yeah, he's getting on a franchise high right now, $21.8 million this year, just in the tag, which is a lot of money for T. Higgins. I'm not seeing a projected contract at all for him. But I mean, I think it's safe to say he'd probably get in the 20s. With Jerry Jeudy getting paid 19.3, I'd be shocked if he's a few over 20.
Oh, he'll get like top 6 wide receiver money now just because of that alone, I think.
Which, unfortunately for T. Higgins, he just isn't worth. I mean, do you guys think he's worth that much money? Like, Chris, I know you're a Clemson fan. Do you think he's worth that much money?
I feel like T. Higgins is probably underrated, only because I feel like you haven't seen him and you don't know if he could be a wide receiver 1. But I feel like there's some guys that we could consider wide receiver 1s that he could possibly be better than if he had his own target share. He didn't have to share targets with Jamar Chase. He'd probably be a just fine wide receiver 1. He could at least be Terry McLaurin level of wide receiver 1. So I think that he should get around or probably right under what Terry McLaurin is.
So, I mean, something to note, too, I think last year kind of put a sour taste in most people's mouth with T. Higgins. Because if you look at the numbers, which are a bit better than I thought they were, his rookie year in 2020 without Jamar Chase, obviously it was injuries with Joe Burrow and all that, he had 908 receiving yards, 6 touchdowns, which is a very good rookie year for a second-round pick wide receiver. 2021 had 1,100 yards, 6 touchdowns. 2022 had 1,000 yards, 7 touchdowns. Last year, 650 yards and 5 touchdowns. So, I mean, in his 4 years, he's had 3,600 yards and 24 touchdowns. So he's been a consistent producer for the most part, other than last year. So there's a bit to bet on there. I think the wide receiver market's really inflated right now. But yeah, I think that's that. Nico, do you have anything else you want to talk about, or are you good?
I'm good. I'm ready for March Madness tomorrow.
And nobody else is.
Yeah, I know the two of y'all do not care about March Madness at all. I just know it, bro. Y'all don't care
At all. I don't know about Chris.
I'm telling you right now, bro. Michigan State loses. I'm not joining the group chat for like a day. I'm gonna just put my phone on do not disturb. I'm gonna just shut up. But if Clemson loses to New Mexico, Chris, I'm going to get on your ass. I don't care if Michigan State gets blown out. I don't care if they lose by a lot. I promise you, like, you're gonna get the same energy from me that you've been giving me all fucking week.
That's crazy.
I know it is.
All right, guys. Well, thank you guys for coming to the stream. Seems like it could be a good stream. So you guys have a great night, and we'll see you guys next Wednesday.
Yes.